social engineering is not just for online. Social engineering is for everyday life. And you can be scammed out of anything, anywhere, at any time. I think that we get in our little bubble, we feel safe, we feel secure.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Learn Online Security Podcast. Today we're flipping the script. Normally, Tamara tracks me down and says, I need to talk to you. It's all on you. I need to speak to you. You and I need to sit down. And I can usually skip away because I'm busy. Today, I saw Tamara and I said, you and I need to sit down. And she went, uh-oh. How we doing, Tamara?
We're doing good, Chris.
Oh, this feels so good.
I'm sure it does.
We want information.
Okay.
That was a tagline from a 60s sci-fi show. Remember, it was a while back you came into us and you said, I've got the perfect, well, I'm exaggerating.
I did not say that.
You won't find me at all.
I didn't say that either.
And you kind of laid a challenge down. And I have to admit, folks, wasn't me. We turned Sarah loose. Richard just looked at her and said, go.
Because I wanted to know what you would find on me. And I've researched myself many times just because given my history.
And I'm not going to reveal how we got to where we got to, but I am going to tell you this. Tamara had to fix a few things. And I'll be honest, Sarah does mine regularly, and I regularly have to fix a few things. So how did it feel?
It felt really good because I think sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes. I think that we as people, we have a certain perspective about ourselves and how we view ourselves and what we think people see. And it's first person, right? It's not an observing role.
Not at all an observing role. Were you surprised at what she found and how she got there?
No, I wasn't. I kind of had a feeling I knew kind of where. And when she brought up some of the details of, she talked about pulling threads is actually what she said. She called it pulling threads. So if you do a post, a social media post, and you put a name or you put a detail, it could be a location, it could be a place of work, it could be a name, or it could name somebody in your family.
Yeah.
That's usually the thread from what I've understood and what I'm learning now of how you kind of get found out. And this is what these predators are looking for.
And they look for those threats, and you're not going to bury all the threats. Now, to educate our audience a little bit, Tamara, being a public figure, she has been trained by previous employers how to bury and make herself anonymous online.
I wouldn't say anonymous. So it's sort of a trick because I think
House of Mirrors?
No, not even a House of Mirrors. So I think when I got into radio, I had a choice. So you can be one of two things if you're an on-air announcer or they called them an on-air personality. And I was given two choices. And the two choices were you can be authentic and build your character for your audience out of who you are, or you can become somebody else entirely. And I was like, well, that's just way too much work, number one. And number two, I'm more of an authentic person. And I like the connection part of it, which is why I loved radio, and it's why I love what I'm doing now, because things for me have to be meaningful. Mm-hmm. And that was meaningful work. And this is also very meaningful. I feel like we will help people.
One of the things that I took away from this, and I encounter it, now I get to flip this back onto you, mm-hmm. and you'll feel much more comfortable. I encounter people all the time that I don't need you. I don't need this. I don't need to listen. So this is a part question, part segue to you. After having us do what we've done, what do you say to those people? How do you feel about that?
I have always been honest that I'm not a super techie person.
Yep.
I learned a lot due in part to the radio station that I work with. They trained me very well, even with social media. And I got to work with some people that were trained in knowing how to be somewhat protective of your information, especially like locations, especially like, I think, personal details. Because the thing is, when you become a public figure of any kind, so public figure can be big city, could be nationwide, it could be prime minister big or president big, or it can be that you own the car dealership in your town. When that person goes to the grocery store, everybody knows who that is. And they just want to say hi in a grocery line. And they're sort of like a local celebrity. And all of these people have profiles online, and they share things about their family, and they share things about... So for me, I was very, very careful. I did not want to bring because when you are, I think especially in radio, because it's media, I do want to be nice to everyone. And I am, I think, generally a nice person. I try to be kind. I try to be warm and friendly and authentic.
You were.
But I'm also very protective of my family.
You did in all honesty, you did do a very good job. That being said, it reveals how good of a job Sarah does.
Yeah.
Because she found nothing on you in your profile. She went digging a few places here, a few places there. And then finally, it was a publication somewhere else that gave her the string to pull.
Yeah. Family name. I had put a family name in one of my posts.
A family name in one of your posts, sponsored by another publication.
Yeah.
It was Tamara and insert family member here.
Yeah.
And Sarah grabbed that family member and pulled on the string.
Well, and I think, it was really important. I heard this earlier in one of the other shows, and that was that a lot of the time, especially when it comes to our children or children in our lives, whether it's a grandchild or whoever, as a family member, you're super proud when your child accelerates. But I mean, if your child wins a provincial medal, or your child is in provincial games, or they're in anything that, they make it to nationals, if they end up in the newspaper, the local newspaper, you mentioned even obituaries. I mean, we would normally, the old-fashioned way is you'd get named, everybody in the family gets named in an obituary in honor of the dead. So it's such a different era, I think, of where we do have to learn how to lock down our private information, and maybe we won't be putting out obituaries anymore. Maybe you mail an obituary to the people that it includes. It's an interesting thing, right?
And this is a discussion I have all the time in course. You can't stop living. You can't. What you can do is minimize your impact. You're going to be named in an obituary. It's in honor of that person that passed. Are we still going to produce obits? I am happy to say, proud to say, that I am starting to see print media come back. People are wanting to get away from that little screen. I'm a people watcher. It's part of what I do because of what I do. And for the longest time, I saw nothing but this. And I watched the transition from this to this to this again.
Mm-hmm. Well, who doesn't love the smell of a book or a newspaper, right?
But we got away from this.
Mm-hmm.
People started to embrace books again. And I'm happy to see that happen. I'm happy to see print again. Will we ever go away from having print? No. Since the dawn of time, we've always marked down our history. And it's always been there for somebody behind us to find it. Having it on a microchip is not going to leave it to be found. We've already proven that that's not permanent.
So the thing that I learned, I think, when it was regarding media and being, you say a public figure, but I mean, it's a small community. So I mean, it wasn't big by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, your voice is recognized, your image is recognized, or, maybe people recognize you in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Okay. And that could be from it could maybe not have nothing to do with the radio part of my life, right? It could have had to do with something else that I had done in a smaller community.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is that people innately want to be acknowledged, even if it's out of friendliness, or to be known, or to be I think there's a psychological part to this.
Yes.
Because what I learned after being in media is like a lot of people want to share everything because it feels good for people to know that you're a good mother and you're a good family member and you're a good citizen.
You need the acknowledgement that you're doing something right.
I guess so. Yeah. And it's nice to get those nice comments, and it feels good. But it also takes a lot of time and energy, right, to manage these things. And I found that when I got away from media and my life quieted down, I took up until about fall last year, I took a complete hiatus over a year, and I didn't post one thing. I finished my last podcast, or I think it was a film short, and it was just time for me to take a break. I was feeling a bit of burnout. And, it was the best thing for me, and I felt really great. And I'm okay coming back into it. But I think that I'm going to be doing it just a little bit differently this time.
And that's an interesting note for us, because I come at this from a totally different angle than you do. I am, for the most part, that face in the darkness behind the keyboard. I'm looking at the information flowing, where it's flowing from, where it's flowing to, where are they getting the information from. I work on the security side of things. You work in the light where everybody can see what you're doing.
And I mean everything.
Everything.
You feel like, you really do feel like if you sneeze somewhere, someone's going to know. Like when you become more public, and I just wonder what it's like for movie stars and film and theater and music, like musicians, like where they can't go anywhere without someone knowing who they are and just wanting a second of their time.
Yeah. And this is one thing that I point out when we do the in-person courses. Social engineering defense for me has to be different than social engineering defense for you. So when we're sitting down with clients, we're sitting down with individuals, and we're going through this, we're evaluating their needs and how it needs. There is no one size fits all. My needs are different than your needs. Now, I'm entering into your world, so my needs need to adapt to what your needs are.
And so I'm guessing from here, this is where, and everybody's going to bring you a little bit different version, like whoever's life or lifestyle, or, I mean, if you had somebody who traveled around the world, I mean, their security risks would be different than someone who lives in a small town and doesn't go anywhere, but maybe does a little bit of online stuff. And I think about just how, like for me, you can make, and you already have, your team has made recommendations to me, which I took to heart right away because
you did.
Because the thing is like, I don't know everything, and why wouldn't you want help in something that could keep you safe and still gives you the freedom to enjoy the things that you want to do online and otherwise.
See, and that was big, and we talk about the dopamine effect, and for us, it felt good because, hey, you took that. I was at a public event. We were talking to an older woman, and she asked what we did, and we explained what we did. She goes, I don't need that. You'll never, ever get me. No way. And we explained the different routines that could happen, and, you have AI that's able to do this. Now you have something else that's able to do that. I won't ever get caught. I won't ever get caught. I guess my question to you is, how would you recommend that we tell these people, like, you might be prepared? I'm the first person to say that. I work in this industry. I might be prepared. I'm not prepared for everything that comes my way. I might be prepared. I take steps, but I might be prepared.
Yeah, that says a lot. I think that, that's where trust comes in, right? People, I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here is give people time to get to know your team, understand, the place that you're coming from and why you're wanting to help. This is not just a fast for cash project. This is very much a community-minded project where you're wanting to help people so that they don't experience some very devastating things. And then I think at the end of the day, I mean, the old saying is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so that's the reality is you can throw the net out and you can say, we will help you. If you want to climb into the net, we'll try and help you in any way that we can and give you the information that you need. And if you don't want help, but they're out there in the ocean all on their own. And that's just the reality. And there's lots of sharks out there, right? Like that's just the way the world is.
To our viewers and our heroes, would you say turning somebody loose on doing their digital footprint is worth the time and the investment?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I say that because, and I say that because when we do these things, again, I had some understanding, and I'm not technical, but I had been trained from my background in radio and what they taught me about social media, what to put on and what not to put on, and how to use a page, and why you should keep things separate, and why not to use your real names. They had given me a layout of certain things. But the reality is that we come in with our perspective. We look at the world from our perspective, and you come in and it's a third person perspective. It's totally an outside look at, and we can't look at ourselves that way. It's almost impossible. And so that's what I would say.
So I'm going to hang on as we come to the end here. I'm going to bring up two things. You've mentioned now when I was in radio, I was trained. There was people that trained me. Social engineering, you agree with this statement, is something that needs to be trained. You need to be aware of it so you're not readily taken advantage of.
I agree with that, because I think, and you've indicated that social engineering, and also with conversations with Sarah, social engineering is not just for online. Social engineering is for everyday life. And you can be scammed out of anything, anywhere, at any time. Somebody can walk. Do you remember like the old commercials, like hey, you want to buy a watch? You know, like any of this stuff, there's cons everywhere. I think that we get in our little bubble, we feel safe, we feel secure. And how much more safer can you feel by tapping away on your phone, on your couch, locked in your house? There's such a false sense of security there. And you think you're safe. You know, you're going online with your bank. You're using your credit cards, you know, to purchase things online.
Yeah.
They're getting your address. So, I mean, we are putting our information out there, and we basically just put like a great big beacon. We put a flare up and said, okay, everybody, we're over here. You know, like, I just think that the social engineering part, you really need to come to understand that it's used in everyday life, and we don't think like criminals. So I think that's really part of it too, is it's one thing to say, well, I want this, so I'm going to be nice to this person so that they give this to me. But there's a whole different level of that happens, and it's practiced, and it's rehearsed. It's so much bigger. They've got it all figured out. They all have the responses figured out. They've got everything figured out. So as soon as they can get you and get you convinced that it's an emergency, or they can get you convinced of something, you know, you're bait. You're so bait. So we are now moving into the membership part of our show. It's the Heroes portion. You can get a subscription by clicking the link below. And today on the Heroes portion, we are talking about how you don't need technology to be social engineered with Richard Bankert.